When Prakash turned 63, he began rising earlier than usual. The sound of slippers across the tiled floor, the hiss of the gas stove, and the rustle of the newspaper had become part of his quiet morning ritual. His wife, Sunita, usually woke an hour later, by which time he would have already finished his tea and stepped out for a walk. Their conversations were limited to practicalities: medicine reminders, grocery lists, electricity bills. It wasn't that they fought. There was no anger, just a long, slow fading. Once they had been inseparable. Their marriage, arranged by their families nearly 4 decades ago, had matured into a strong partnership. They'd raised 2 children, managed a household through financial highs and lows, attended weddings and funerals hand in hand, and built a life full of shared moments. But now, in the silence of their retired years, something invisible stood between them. Not bitterness, not boredom, just distance. He noticed it most during meals. They used to eat together, trading stories from their day. Now they sat in silence, chewing and scrolling through their phones. Sometimes she watched a serial on her tablet, earbuds in, barely noticing his presence. He didn't mind, not consciously. But it left a strange hollowness, like listening to music with one earbud missing. This distance hadn't happened overnight. It had crept in slowly, masked by routine. As the children grew up and left for cities abroad, the glue of parenthood no longer bound them. There were no school forms to sign, no tuitions to coordinate, no joint decisions about college admissions. The noise had faded, and in its absence, so had their connection. Men like Prakash often found themselves surprised by this quiet drift. They weren't taught to tend to emotional intimacy. Throughout his working life, his days were consumed by deadlines, clients, office politics. His role as provider had become his identity. There wasn't much time for romance or personal reflection. He thought love was something understood, not expressed. He assumed being there was enough. Sunita had changed too. After years of managing the home and putting others first, she had finally found space for herself. She joined a women's yoga group, made new friends, and took interest in devotional music and temple volunteering. She smiled more when she was out. At home, she moved efficiently through the day, polite but distant, not cold, just elsewhere. One evening, while they were watching television, he made a rare attempt at conversation. "Do you remember that place we went in Shimla on our honeymoon? The one with the chaat stall near the church?" She looked up, surprised. Shimla? Oh, that was so long ago." "Yeah," he said, half smiling. "I walked past a vendor today who used the same kind of chutney. It reminded me." She gave a small laugh. "Our son was asking if we could go visit them in Canada. You'll have to renew your passport." And just like that, the moment was gone. He didn't blame her. Not really. He realized he had allowed himself to become emotionally absent long before she had. When the children were small, he was too busy. When they were teens, he was too tired. And when they left, he assumed the years ahead would be peaceful, not empty. Many men like him didn't know how to rebuild emotional bridges. They had grown up learning to be useful, not vulnerable. Their fathers had been distant, their mothers dutiful. Talking about feelings had no place in the homes they were raised in. So they hardened quietly, mistaking silence for strength. Prakash began noticing other couples. Some walked in the park together, laughing softly. Others, like him and Sunita, walked separately, steps apart even when side by side. He met Ramesh, a fellow retiree, who confided one morning, "We live in the same house, but it's like we're in different countries. I don't know what she thinks about anymore." That's when Prakash realized it wasn't uncommon, this growing distance between husband and wife in later life. When children left and careers ended, they were suddenly two people with nothing urgent binding them. If they hadn't built a habit of being emotionally present, they drifted. He tried, in small ways, to come closer. One afternoon, he offered to go with her to the temple. She looked surprised but agreed. They walked in silence, but he felt her glance at him once, as if seeing him differently. He started asking her more questions. What she was reading, what she'd cooked with her friends, whether she wanted to try that new thali place down the road. Sometimes she answered with just a nod, but other times she opened up, laughed, shared. It wasn't easy. Years of emotional distance couldn't be undone in weeks, but she noticed the change and slowly, cautiously responded. One night, over dinner, she looked up and said, "Do you remember the mustard curry I made once in Udaipur?" You had 3 servings. He smiled, surprised. That was still the best I've ever had. She laughed. You never said that back then. I'm saying it now, he replied. The conversation continued, gently. No dramatic confessions, no tears, just a return to curiosity, a return to noticing each other. Prakash understood at last that love in later life isn't about grand gestures. It's about staying interested. It's about talking, even when silence is easier, about showing up emotionally, not just physically. He knew not all marriages could be repaired. Some grew apart irreversibly. But for others, like his, the distance wasn't built from hatred or conflict. It was built from years of quiet neglect of assuming things would take care of themselves. But they didn't. And now, slowly, intentionally, he was trying to relearn what it meant to be a husband. Not just the man who pays the bills or fixes the light bulb, but the one who listens, who notices, who remembers. He was, finally, becoming present. Not too late, just in time.